the Holocaust survivor. And he sat me down and he said, with his eyes looking me in the eye, "Are you sure you want to cast your lot with the Jewish people?" And I didn't know what that question meant.
Imagine someone at just 14 years old, rejecting everything familiar, desperately searching for something she couldn't name. What drives a teenager to stand alone in adult spiritual spaces, knowing she doesn't really belong anywhere yet? Get ready to discover how one young soul's relentless search led her to a path that would not only transform her life, but would empower her to transform thousands of others.
By 10, I realized Christianity is not my path. I have to find my own. The first thing was to become atheist, because clearly religion must be wrong. I was looking for a non-God-based path at first, so Buddhist chanting, psychic healing, chakra workshops. I was a freshman in high school, and I just went to the library and I read across the religion shelf. A teacher got wind of what I was doing, and she was Christian, and she came and told me, if you're looking for religions, you should look in your own backyard. And she gave me 2 books on Christianity, which I read a little reluctantly because I didn't actually want to be Christian. Rejected Jesus, which I did. Then I had to reject the other 2 also because it's all the same thing. There's got to be another path for me. And I kept reading, and I found a book called To Be a Jew. I read that book and I was like, I am Jewish. I didn't know any Jews at the time. I knew my parents didn't think it. They thought, oh, she's a teenager. Like, how long is this going to last? You know, she went through the other phases. This is the phase. So I told the rabbi I wanted to convert. And he said, that's very nice, but you're 15. So no.
I'm Menachem Lehrfield, and this is 0%, where we explore the outsized impact of the Jewish people. All year, we've been focusing on stories of Jews by choice, and I'm so delighted to have with us for our very last episode this season, a dear friend and mentor of my wife and me, Aliza Bulow, a noted author, lecturer,
educator and educators.
And yes.
How
amazing is that? So Aliza, thank you so much for being with us. Also the managing director, or CEO of CORE, which I'd love to hear about as we have this conversation. So throughout this year, I've been hearing these stories of these people who have chosen to become Jewish. And for me, it's been a very, not just inspiring, but it's been very educational to kind of hear these stories, hear these different perspectives. And I think what's really different about your story is you didn't just make this choice and become Jewish and live a Jewish life, but you have impacted so many lives since you made that choice. And I can't help but think how things might have been so different had you not made that choice. And I say that choice as if I know that it was a choice. It could be it was dozens or hundreds of choices. And I'd love for you to walk us through those choices, almost with this mindset of, well, had that not happened, what would your life look like?
Oh my gosh. I can't even imagine how it would have looked like because I chose very young. I mean, I was 16 when I went to the mikvah. So I chose at 14. And I was really wandering from 10.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was really wandering from 10. I had a few wander years. And then by 14, I chose to be Jewish. And it took until I was 16 to get a rabbi to agree to let me get into the mikvah and come out a Jew. And then I went to Israel. So really, I adulted Jewish. I didn't grow up Jewish, but I adulted Jewish. Because I never had my own kitchen and my own life that wasn't informed by Judaism. I always had a kosher kitchen. I always kept Shabbat from as soon as I had agency in my life. I was keeping Jewish law and doing Jewish things.
Which is, I think, one of the reasons why, we ran into each other like a month or two ago, and we were about to close out this season, and my wife was like, how come you never asked Aliza to be on the podcast? Right. And I was like, in my mind, it didn't even occur to me that you had a story, because you are so not just integrated into the community, but you are, your whole persona is leading, inspiring, and helping those who lead, inspire, and
right. That's what I do.
So wow. So I guess it makes a lot of sense that the journey had started
very young.
So young.
Yeah.
So walk us through, you're 14 years old.
So, it's so hard. I'm 61 and I still wonder, I still look back. But actually, somebody recently asked me, what attracted you to Judaism? And I said, it's really the best set. Did you know it was always right? So what attracted me we'll talk about. But how I know it's right, and it took probably a decade to know it was right, my initial attraction was, this is the path I like best. And my mother taught me as a young child, when she was teaching me about different religions and what they are and why they are and who they are, that all religions are paths to the same destination. And just
was she religious?
She was. So hang on, this is what she taught. All religions are paths to the same destination, and people just walk on different paths. So that's what I understood as a 7, 8, 9-year-old. So by 10, I realized Christianity is not my path. I have to find my own. So it was just that, really. Was she religious? She was certainly raised Christian, not super religious, but raised in the Congregational Church, which is a Protestant denomination, Midwestern, Wisconsin. My father was too. My father was a college professor, not particularly religious. Really happy to kind of leave it behind. My mother, I think, is a spiritual person still today, but went through a lot of turmoil, which I didn't understand actually until I started running CORE, the organization that I run now, which teaches pastoral counseling and community support and things like that. And only in running that and going, I realized, oh my gosh, I was raised by a mother who was in deep grief. I didn't even think about it. Like, she was, by 26, she had lost both her parents. Like, her mother died right after I was born. And then 2 years later, after my sister was born, her father died. So she was 26 with a baby and a toddler and 2 dead parents. And like, that was my early childhood. It was her reeling from grief. Her mother died in a car accident and her father in a plane accident. And like, she was just really kind of a mess, which I didn't even think about because, of course, that was my childhood. But that made her step away from the church. And she's like, I don't know if I really want to talk to you, God, you and your religious ways with me and my grief. And like, so I think while she had some religious background, it was in the 1970s, late 60s, early 70s, where she was just like, I don't know. But she was spiritual. So she was really attracted to the human potential movement and like, how could we better ourselves? Kind of.
And how was that manifest?
It was manifest in a lot of ways. So that's why when my friend, this person asked me what attracted you, I said, well, I really feel like Judaism is the best set of tools to perfect myself and perfect all of humanity. She said, what made you think you needed perfecting? And I was a child. What did make me think that? And I realized, oh my gosh, I think it was, besides my parents who were all about perfecting all the time and always giving, doing in the community, I think Jonathan Livingston Seagull, actually, which I don't know if that's a movie you've ever seen, but it is. I looked up last time I saw it, it was 10. But I looked up the AI summary of it, and it is about a seagull. It's a mushel, a parable, about a seagull who learns amazing ways to fly. And he learns he can fly above the flock and do amazing loop-de-loops and go fast. And he comes back to the flock and he's like, guys, I've learned something. I've discovered something, how to fly in amazing ways. And I'm like, Jonathan, we fly to go scavenge. We scavenge so we can fly. That's what we're doing. We're not doing something more. And he's like, wait, but you don't understand. There's a whole nother world. We could do amazing things. And really, he's flying above the flock. And that was the whole thing. It's like, there's more. Fly higher. It is not just about feeding yourself. It's not just about going around in the lower levels. There's higher levels to reach, and you could do something amazing. So I knew that from a young age. And I was like, I got to reach. So I don't know. I started reaching.
That's quite amazing. So even as a young teenager, you kind of had that like game plan. You knew what you were looking for.
Yeah.
Which I think is huge because most of us go through our entire lives with no idea what we're looking for. Right. So there's no way to know whether we've found it because we don't even know what we're looking for. Right. But I guess with that in mind, you then just began trying on religions to see which one would.
I did. And it's exactly what I did.
What is that like?
How crazy is that? So the first thing was to become atheist because clearly religion must be wrong, right? And I realized also looking back that as a Protestant child, I was taught that we're monotheists, not like the Catholics who at that time were not seen as monotheists by the Protestants. That's what my mother taught me anyway. Anyway, how are we monotheists, I wondered, when there's Father, Son, and Holy Ghost? Like, what's up with that? Monotheists, though. Oh, those are 3 faces of one God. Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. three faces of one. Actually, that's why the three-leaf clover is the Irish symbol, because that shows how three can be one.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I never knew that.
So, yeah.
Okay.
And later on, I read another parable for that, which is actually interesting. I was already Jewish, so it wasn't what I needed for education, but it was interesting to hear how those are the three faces of one. It's like ice, water, and steam. Three manifestations of the same thing.
Okay.
Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Okay, so if I had been taught that, which I had, if I rejected Jesus, which I did, then I had to reject the other two also, because it's all the same thing. It's all one. So rejecting the whole Jesus thing was like, there's not a God, there's nothing. Let me just clear the decks and see what there is. There's got to be another path for me. So I started looking. I was looking for a non-God-based path at first. So Buddhist chanting, psychic healing, chakra workshops,
And did you talk about this with your parents? Like, did someone help you in this journey, or you were kind of like on your own?
I was kind of on my own because
Before the internet.
It was before the internet. This was like in the 70s.
Were you meeting people? Were you looking at a library? Were you
library reading?
Okay.
But by this time, my parents had not returned to the proper church, but what was called a house church. And a house church at that time was kind of like a reform chavura system, in that it was, let's say, a group of 5 to 10, 5 to 15 families that met together on a weekly basis. We actually had a minister, but we met in like somebody's finished basement or in each other's finished basements, and would have like meet, tell stories, sing songs, have lunch. That was our Sunday morning like worship experience. In that context with the Jonathan Livingston Seagull story and other parables of growth and potential and feelings and manifestation and stuff like that. So I knew that was a thing. And I was just searching for like, what was going to be my thing that gave my life meaning and shape if I'm leaving behind Christianity. So I just tried on different things and asked people. And my parents were busy at that time figuring themselves out in a serious way.
Sounds like a story for another day.
Oh my gosh, yeah. But in the midst of like, so I didn't know, I mean, again, 10, 11, 12 years old, but in the midst of getting divorced, but not a bad, terrible one, just like it was 1970s. Look, everybody was doing it, and so were they. But I also now realize, looking back, that like my mother, as I mentioned, didn't have parents to tell her, what are you doing? Stop this right now. So she had no one to like just put her back in her place where she needed to be so that this marriage would work, because this marriage could have worked. And she was single for 40 years and ended up marrying a professor who would have been what my father would have been if they would have stayed married for those 40
Funny
years.
is that?
There are a lot of wanderings along the way. But in that divorce and then re-relationshiping was a lot of their own inner work, which was a lot of their own inner work. Or there are a lot of work facing out to find new support, which left a big vacuum for the two kids. We're not like, you guys know how to brush your teeth and shower on your own. Great. And now we will do our life and you will do yours. Like, we'll provide you a house and food, but like guidance that's you. So on the one hand, I wish I had more parental guidance. And on the other hand, I never would have been who I am with it. I needed to be without it. They gave me just enough to be independent and capable and needy to go and find something on my own.
It's really cool how we all get exactly what we need, when we need it, and how we need it.
It really is. It really is. And I'm so grateful for the life that I had, for the many moves. We moved many, many times when I was a child, many different communities. As my father finished his PhD in urban history, and then he became a professor, but not tenured. And then we actually did a year-long family field study of interracial neighborhoods and desegregated housing in 1974. So we lived I was 10, and we lived in many different communities, Baltimore and Cleveland and Corona, California, Portland, Oregon. My sister and I were the field researchers for children's relationships and stuff. And we went to school in the different communities, came back and reported to our parents, moved to another community. And then at the end of that year, my parents wrote a book. And
that's so fascinating.
Yeah. And then we went back to school, and I was on my way doing my own thing by then.
Were there parts of that chapter of your story that you think led you to eventually become who you are today?
For sure, it gave me skills. Like even coming back, so I was 11 when I came back, and my parents are very involved in community organizations for integration, desegregation, and stuff like that. So coming back, my father was going to report to the community on what we learned. But instead, he prepared me as the keynote speaker. So that's where I learned the word keynote, and that's where I gave my first speech. And like, whatever, I don't remember exactly how the speech was prepared, but I delivered it. And I probably started my public speaking career, even though that was just one at a time. But like, it just, to know that it prepared me to look at communities and see what makes them tick. We talked about it a lot. What makes them tick? How do people work in community, in consonance with each other or in opposition from each other? Like all of that was conversation pretty much since I was here in conversation. So, but certainly in that year, and then coming back, and then their divorce and the work that they did with each other, it was a very nice divorce. They're still today like first cousins, like still like long-term family members who aren't like best friends and not close, but would certainly include each other in any family important thing.
That's nice.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Okay, so you're 14 years old. You are starting to explore.
14 years old, going to high school, deciding that, continuing my exploration. And I had a God experience.
What does that mean?
Through a psychic healing workshop.
Okay.
Whatever it was, I felt God in this exchange I had with another person.
I'm more curious about how you ended up in the psychic healing experience to begin with.
Because I was in the research phase, looking for my paths and looking for a non-God-based experience. So what am I going to find? Like psychic healing and Buddhist chanting and
was this
Scientology.
For teenagers, or you were there with all these adults?
No, adults.
Okay, and were they like, what are you doing here?
Yes. And yet there I was.
Okay, and there you were.
And there I was.
So you're in this
Yes, I was about the chakras and the 7 chakras and the heart chakra and the light that can come from your heart chakra and go into somebody else's chakra, and a figure 8 light delivery system where you take the light from you into their heart chakra and then bring it into you and you cleanse it and you send it back. It was very much, And there's this whole exchange, but you should do that. If you're going to heal them through the light of your 4th chakra, this workshop taught, you should ask for God's protection so that you don't get sick. Okay, but I skipped that part because I didn't believe in God. And whatever this was, I was 14, but I tried it with somebody and then they felt better and I didn't feel so well. And then later on that night, I sort of felt like an energetic thing happening and I started to feel better. And I'm like, what is that? I thought, well, maybe that's God. Like maybe there's a different God concept that I was introduced to. Like maybe I should explore God concepts, not just pathways, but actually the concept of God. So I decided to do that. So it was 1978. I was a freshman in high school and I just went to the library and I read across the religion shelf. I just started with whatever was on that side and went across the shelf. And after I read 3 or 4 books, a teacher got wind of what I was doing. And she was Christian, and she came and told me, if you're looking for religions, you should look in your own backyard. And she gave me 2 books on Christianity, which I read a little reluctantly because I didn't actually want to be Christian. I wanted to leave that behind. But I thought, if I'm looking actually, so I should look.
It's good advice.
I should look. So I looked. So I read it. And the one thing I remember from those 2 books, because I read them both, was A Path to Joy. Here you are, joy.
There we go. Joy.
Another secret that I learned from that book. You put Jesus first, others next, yourself last. Joy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I knew that wasn't my book. And I kept reading, and I found a book called To Be a Jew by Hayim Halevy Donin.
We have it here.
That's right. And I read it, and I was like, this is it. I'm Jewish. I totally knew I was home. I read that book and I was like, I am Jewish. I didn't know any Jews at the time. I had met a few Jews over the course of my lifetime, but I didn't know any Jews. There are none in my school. But I read that book and I knew I was Jewish. And so whatever it had in there, that it had the Shema in there and it says you should say these words when you wake up in the morning and you lie down at night and put them on the doorpost of your house and all that stuff. So I just started saying them every morning when I woke up and every night when I went to sleep. And I wrote it on the doorpost of my house, my room, because I didn't have a house, but I had a bedroom. So I wrote it there. And
on the doorpost itself?
Sure. Sure, that's what it's
sure mom loved that.
So by then, my father was remarried, and he married a Catholic woman. It was a mixed marriage. They couldn't get married in a church, Protestant Catholic mix. But they got married by a priest in our house. And so it was a blended family of 4 Catholic kids and 2 lapsed Protestant kids. And so everybody was doing their own thing. Everybody.
Sounds like fun.
It was fun enough that I was like definitely ready to go. I sat my father down when I was 14 that year, and I explained to him how I was going to be able to move out and it was going to work for me. Like I had the whole financial thing done, how much I would need to babysit, where I could live, how I'd get my schoolwork done, how I'd pay for my ballet lessons and my ballet stuff because I was going to a performing arts school, how I'd get the whole thing done. And I just needed his permission to actually move out and do this plan. And he looked at me and he said, you really have a plan there. He said, in another generation, that would work. I said, but you live in our generation when you're really just too young to do that. So you have to wait a few more years. But I had a whole thing. I told him how like houses are great, homes are great. They're like a greenhouse in which one blossoms until they're ready to be transplanted into the outside world. I have now grown to the confines of what this household greenhouse can support, and it's time for me to be transplanted into my own universe. And yeah, but he said I have to wait. So
that must have been very deflating.
He was actually really good at it. He was really nice. Like he really supported that I had thought about it and made a plan, and he commended it, and he said, you have to wait. So on the one hand, it was fun to be in that house, and on the other hand, I was like, I need to go.
And at that point, like you've already made up your mind, like you're going to be Jewish?
I knew I was Jewish, and I didn't know how to become Jewish. Like at first, I just was. I didn't realize there's like an official process to do that, which in Christianity, there's not. In Christianity, if you believe, you're a Christian, and if you don't believe, you're not. So in Judaism, I didn't realize there's like this whole halachic thing you have to do. I just felt like if I embrace whatever I read in that book and I believe that I'm Jewish, then I am. So I'm Jewish. But I didn't know any Jews. I had to find a synagogue and a rabbi and all that stuff, which I did eventually. A really nice Rabbi Joshua Stamfer, and he was really kind. And at that time in 1978, it was kind of like BMH today, like a very big, probably even BMH was built at that time, right? A big, active, traditional synagogue with a full adult ed program and a full teen program. And every weekday minyan, the minyonaires, they called them. So they had the minyonaires, the old guys who davened every day, and then the big mixed seating sanctuary, a cantor who sang all the things to sing, and then the congregation that came every Friday night. And so I went every Friday night, and then they had much smaller services Saturday mornings. But I went to those 2 whenever I could. And by the time I found that synagogue, I was 15. And
you would go by yourself?
I went by myself, yeah. I had a bus pass. I went to Portland public schools, and they gave all the kids a bus pass to get to school. So I could go wherever I wanted with my bus pass. So I did. It was across town. I had lived on the other side of town, the shadier side.
Wow.
And this was the fancier side. But I went but I was 15, which is old enough to sign up for all the adult ed programs. Huh. So I did. And young enough to take part in all the teen programs. So I did. And I also became a madricha a counselor for all the younger kid programs. So I jumped in with 2 feet.
Wow. And you were really enmeshed in that community.
Totally enmeshed. So I told the rabbi I wanted to convert. And he said, that's very nice, but you're 15. So no. But you're welcome to continue attending classes and services. So I was frustrated because here I had done all this research for years, and I was absolutely certain that I wanted to be Jewish, that I was Jewish, and I just needed him to confirm that with whatever ceremony was necessary. And I couldn't believe that he was pushing back on me, let's go. Nevertheless, that's what he did. So that was the end of my freshman year. And then that summer, I was much too old and sophisticated to go to summer camp, so I did not. I got a full-time job, and I worked full-time squeezing orange juice and selling cookies on a street corner for in a cart downtown. And I made a lot of money, minimum wage, with no expenses. I just socked it away. And so in the middle of the summer, when the rabbi got up and talked about how important summer camp is for Jewish continuity, and that every grandparent should pay, every parent should send, every child should go. It's going to ensure that they maintain a Jewish connection for their whole lives. I was like, I need to go to summer camp. Like, this is really important. And I have enough money to pay for it. So I signed up for the USY session at the end of the season. It was a 10-day teen session, Camp Solomon Schechter in Washington State. And I went there and I decided I'm not going to tell anybody I'm not Jewish. I'm just going to see if I can pass. See what I'll try it out without anybody knowing. So the rabbi,
Cool experience.
The rabbi knew, and so some of the administration knew, but the counselors didn't know, and the campers didn't know. The cantor of the camp was not the cantor of our shul, and he also knew. He was a Holocaust survivor, and this was in 1970. Where are we? 9 by now. So it was not that long after the Holocaust, really. So he was a young man, 50 maybe, 45. I'm older, so that's young. He had a torn pupil from the Holocaust, but fixed, but his eyes didn't work together. And I used to go to him every day to learn Hebrew. Like on any free time I had, I would go so I could learn to read Hebrew. And he's the only adult who questioned my choice.
Really?
Yeah. The only one. Not my parents, not the rabbi, nobody else. And he sat me down and he said, with his eyes, looking me in the eye with his eyes that didn't go together, "Are you sure you want to cast your lot with the Jewish people?" And I didn't know what that question meant. I thought at age 15, he was saying, "Are you sure you want to be Jewish?" So my answer was yes. But I did not understand what he was asking me.
Especially as a survivor.
I did not have the capacity to understand the question, because as somebody whose family came to the United States in 1638 from England, Protestants who came as part of why this country is a Judeo-Christian country. The Judeo part was brought by the Christians who saw this as the promised land, leaving behind the evil king of England and embarking across the ocean to the uncharted desert of the United States and creating a Bible-based society here. That's what they wanted to do. And that's why the early Americans are all Abigails and Daniels and, all those names, Isaacs and Israels and Rebeccas, because they're biblical, they were the new Israel. They saw themselves in the biblical drama of the new Israel coming to, it was a replacement theology, but coming to create a Bible-based society here. So my family basically founded the country. How could I ever conceive of what he was talking about? Where the police might not be your friends or the government might not be on your side. I knew for sure that the government's of the people, by the people, for the people. If you don't like it, you just engage in the democratic process and change it. That's how it works in this country. What was he asking me?
I mean, you were aware of the Holocaust.
I knew about the Holocaust, but
historic persecution, but that had nothing to do with a modern American person.
No. And as a Jewish adult now, I know that Jewish adults are always looking over their shoulder. Always. The same way I have to constantly, as a woman who has to always see who's around before I start singing. So we all just have a consciousness of, am I okay? In this country where I'm a guest. I'm a guest in this country. I'll tell you an old Jewish joke. Ready for it? It's a very old, but you'll get it. So, because this is how Jews used to be in your parents' generation and before. 2 Jews are in Russia. They're condemned to death. They're taken before the firing squad. Blindfold is put on. And one of them says, wait. Don't we get a last request or anything? A cigarette or anything? And the other one says, shh, stop making trouble. So that has been the Jewish consciousness for so long. Shh. And that's not the Protestant consciousness. The Protestant consciousness is there's stuff to do. Let's go do it, right? Idle hands do the devil's work. Don't let your hands be idle. Let's go. Stop sitting, start doing, and keep doing, right?
Wow. So did you push back? Did you ask him what he meant? Or
no,
you just
because I thought I understood the question.
And you just moved on?
I didn't understand that I didn't understand the question.
I see.
I thought his question was, are you sure you want to be Jewish?
Maybe understood.
Yeah. Are you sure you want to be Jewish? Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so how did the rest of that experience go, those 10 days?
So I did learn how to read Hebrew. I loved camp. I went to the Beit Knesset the next day, summer camp. So all the buildings were named in Hebrew. They have Camp Hebrew. And on the front of the Beit Knesset was a big sign that said Shalom, made of seashells, that some camper had glued, And I sounded it out. I read it in Hebrew. That was the first word. First word I read on my own in Hebrew. No vowels, but just like I sounded out how each letter worked, and I realized it said Shalom, and I was brought to tears. I really was. I was like, I couldn't really believe it. Like, I'm looking at these letters and I got the word. And I was like, as much as I've learned, I have loved it and loved it and loved it. And for me, like, everything I learned in Judaism is kind of like, you're a creative guy. I'm guessing you've probably given your wife a gift where you unwrap a box and inside there's a smaller one. You unwrap it, inside there's a small one. Unwrap it, inside there's a small one until you get to the diamond earrings or whatever, right? So I feel like every time I unwrap the package of Judaism, the box inside is bigger. The gift inside is bigger. And I tear off that wrapping paper and inside it's like even bigger. And I open it up and it's like, I can't even believe how big this is. And every time I open it, it's like even bigger. And I love it all the time. I love it.
And you've got that even from the beginning.
Totally. So in camp, I learned how to keep kosher because I saw how it works. And I learned what Shabbos is like. There are 2 Shabbases. So I had known about Shabbos. I went to shul for Shabbos, but I didn't know what it really meant to keep Shabbos. And in camp, they did. And I saw what it looks like. So I came home from camp and I started keeping Shabbos as best I could. I still use my bus pass. It's not money. I didn't really know about carrying yet. So I could go to shul with my bus pass. And then I started staying at the rabbi's house every once in a while for a full Shabbos. Otherwise, I would just go for parts of it.
I know what that like.
And I love that.
That was probably the first time you were
Mirot.
In a Jewish home at a Shabbat meal.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So his youngest daughter was my age. All his kids were older, but his youngest one was my same age. So, and there wasn't a Jewish high school in Portland. So she was going to her public high school and I was going to mine. But there was a K-8 in Portland, which she attended. But they were very traditional, interesting family. He studied at JTS back in the day when he was really a scholar. He really was a scholar. And was left-leaning politically, which I did not understand. He read the Jerusalem Post, which is not a left paper, but I remember seeing him read the Jerusalem Post. But he was a member of Shalom Achshav, Peace Now, which I didn't know what that was at the time. Only looking back did I know more about it. But he was born in East Jerusalem.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And here he was in the United States and, a rabbi in this congregation and guiding his flock. And anyway, I started keeping Shabbos and I started keeping kosher to the best that I could. I didn't buy kosher meats, but I only ate kosher meat, meaning, not properly shechted meats, but only beef and chicken. Kosher style. I started keeping kosher style, which worked out in the context of my family. No meat and milk together. And my parents were okay with that. And if they would make, let's say, a lasagna for dinner, so they'd make it either meat or dairy for me.
That's nice.
And not mix. Yeah, it was very nice of them. Yeah, as I came back from camp, just raring to go. I told the rabbi, now I for sure want to convert. And he's like, now you're still 15.
Did any part of you feel like you didn't even need to go through the conversion process?
Yes.
Because you were already Jewish.
Totally.
So what was this?
I knew
were you looking for the validation?
Yeah, I knew I needed to. Like I knew I was Jewish, but the rest of the Jewish world needed to know that I'm Jewish. And for that, there's a process. So finally, when I turned 16, which is in February, in the middle of my 10th grade year, I turned 16, and the rabbi said, yeah, I could convert. Somebody else, they only filled up the mikvah in Portland at that time for conversions. So I was getting, just for context, between 75 cents and $1 an hour for babysitting. It was $25 to fill up the mikvah. It was a lot of money. But somebody else was converting that week. So he told me somebody else will pay to fill the mikvah, and you can also go when she goes. So at the beginning of that February.
And you didn't have to go through any process because you've really been doing
that was
so
the
long.
process.
I'm saying you've been doing that.
Yeah. I had been attending all the classes and asking all the things and learning to read Hebrew and engaging in Shabbat and Kashrut and was a madricha for the younger kids and participated in the Jewish youth movement and writing letters to Soviet Jews and wearing my bracelet for the refuseniks. And I even got the social studies teacher in my school to give me a couple of periods of classes so I could explain what's going on in the Soviet Jews. And I bought airgrams with my babysitting money and handed them out to everybody that they should write a letter of support to a Soviet Jew who's stuck in, behind the Iron Curtain. And so I was doing all the teenage things. I took my whole childhood and wrapped it into like activism here. Like I knew how to do activism. I've been raised in that. So he saw. Still, as looking back as a full adult now, I think, how did anybody let me at 16?
Yes. That's a big decision for us. It's fair.
And yet it was the right decision. Like clearly Hashem cleared the path for me. Clearly.
And throughout this whole process, again, it's not that long, from 14 to 16.
Yeah.
There was no point where you had doubts,
No.
you weren't sure, or second guessing.
Never a second guess. No, I knew for sure I was headed there. Only like as an adult now, like because people ask all the time, well, how did you know? How did you find it? And I just feel like, there's a blessing we say in the morning. Thank you, God, for giving the rooster wisdom that he should be able to distinguish between between light and dark, right? And I feel like that's where I was just like a chicken pecking around in my own backyard. When one day God tapped me on the shoulder and said, "There's light over there. Go get it." And I did. I still, it's just amazing to me still. Clearly I was destined to be Jewish. So was it a choice? It was a choice. I personally don't use the word Jew by choice. I mean, I do because that's what people understand. I like first generation Jew. Because once you converted, you're not a convert anymore. Like, what are you supposed to say about that person?
Right.
Even though halachically, according to Jewish law, there is extra mitzvah to love a person who converted. You're supposed to love your fellow Jew and also love the convert. And the question is, when does that mitzvah start in the life of the convert? Many people feel that it starts before the actual mikveh experience, when they're in process of from the final past exploration, from decision to mikveh. You could call that person a convert, or does it extend the whole lifetime of the person? Because they are considered, which they are. They are considered, and they are in a way bereft of family.
Right.
They're listed among the orphan and the widow and the Levi who's landless has a family but is landless. So they're missing something that anchors them in the world, which is true.
They're marginalized.
True. Yeah. Not just marginalized. It's the anchoring. They are marginalized, but even if the widow's not marginalized, she's part of the community and has been there for a long time and her husband died.
Something missing. There's something.
But her anchor is missing. What makes something's been taken away that she feels unsafe in the world. It's not the same safety as having a husband that you could, even though the safety of being able to call and process something that's somebody or discuss it at night, but there's certainly not the person to make decisions with you or to ensure that you're cared for, the backup. And the same thing with the orphan, where are their parents? And even so clearly young orphans, but even somebody who doesn't marry, they're 30 years old, or I know somebody who's 50 years old and never married, but doesn't have parents. So yeah, they're a little bit adrift.
I like that expression, first generation Jew.
Yeah.
Because the truth is, if you think about it, we're all Jews are converts. We all converted and went through. The only difference is that my family went through a mass conversion at Mount Sinai, and you went through it on your own.
Right. And so I am considered, as you know, the daughter of Abraham and Sarah, the first converts to Judaism. Mm-hmm. And there's a whole process that went through the Rabbi Moshe Hayim Halevy, who wrote the book, The Way of God, explains the process of how we went from the children of Adam and Eve to the children of Abraham and Sarah. How did that transition, how was that affected that actually a separate spiritual species was created, and so that we are a subset of humanity, but in with the different spiritual markings on our neshama, so to speak. How did that happen? Because we're all the children of Adam and Eve, right? So it really did come from a dual process of resting away from who they were and the path of the world at the time, recognizing that you could soar above the rest. Right? Really what happened was God made free will. We came into the world, there's free will, and he gave us one mitzvah. All humanity, don't eat from that tree. If we chose up, don't eat from it, we'd move into a different level of reality. If we chose down, we would move into the level of reality that we're in now. Okay. But we chose down as
Spoiler alert.
we chose down as human beings. But the potential of up still existed. And it coexisted. Reality and potential coexisted for those 2,000 years until Abraham, lying on the hillside, looked up one day and said, whoa, we could fly above the rest. Let's reach for that. And God said, finally, I've been waiting for somebody to notice that. Okay, let's do this thing. But then God said, and then Abraham said, okay, I'm in. I'll do this thing with you. But how will I know that my children aren't going to do this with you? Right? The me'edah, he said, how will I know? And God said, don't worry, I have a plan. I'm going to send them into Egypt. It's going to be a whole workshop for them. We're going to squeeze them very tight. And then we'll bring them out and give them the Torah. So basically what happened was God said, here is the plan. I will take them as human beings and bring them into a workshop situation where they will be squeezed very tight. And the regular dross of humanity will be squeezed out of them. And then, like a sponge that's been squeezed tight, they'll be very absorbent. And I'll take them in that squeezed state to Mount Sinai, where I'll give them the Torah. And they'll be able to absorb that in all the empty spaces. So
I love that analogy of the sponge.
Right? So there's a
I never thought of it that way.
There's a squeeze and receive process. Squeeze in Mitzrayim, receive at Sinai. Squeeze and receive. So that squeeze and receive is what transitioned us from regular people into Jews. And it turns out we're not quite done. He continues to offer squeeze and receive episodes in our lives. So that's happening still today. But yeah, the first generation Jew, once they choose in that way, then they have to go through their own squeeze and receive process. Certainly the receive that they need, but they have to pull themselves away from their family, just like Abraham and Sarah did, and choose a different pathway. And so because they've done that, they earn the title child of Abraham and Sarah, the first pull-awayers, the Ivris, the Hebrews that are the other-siders. So converts are other-siders, right? So they get that title that's bestowed upon them.
That's quite the badge to wear.
Yeah.
And quite the responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. Ivri. So that's what a convert is, an Ivri. Jews they have a few names, but one of them is Ivri, Hebrew, other-sider. Then there's Yehudi, thanker or admitter. And that's what we stand for. So Ivri is how you stand apart. Yehudi is what you stand for. We stand for gratitude. Hashem runs the whole world, and we admit that, and we're so grateful that he does. You could go on and on about that, but whatever. But our third name is Yisrael. We, Israelite. We, Jews, don't ever call ourselves the children of Abraham. There's the Abraham Accords, but that's not our name. Right? That's other people's name for us, trying to put together the three faiths that look to Abraham the patriarch as our forefather, which he is for three religions. But that's not our name for ourselves. Right? We're the B'nai Yisrael, the children of Jacob, the house of Jacob, or the B'nai Yisrael. That's our collective title. So we have a who we stand, how we stand apart, what we stand for, and a who we stand with names, 3 different names. So for the first generation Jew, that third name is sometimes a little harder to acquire, or the energy of it. Like, how do you join? Because the energy of conversion is the energy of leaving, the energy of standing alone, the energy of tearing apart, tearing away, standing apart and alone, knowing what you stand for with strength. But knowing how to join the crowd, that takes time.
I bet.
Yeah, it does.
What was that process like for you?
So for me, I was very lucky. At 16, I went to Israel. I got to Israel and immediately became a vegetarian. I think because I was a teenager that needed to stand apart, and my stand apartness of being Jewish was gone because now I'm here. So I was still a teenager. I still needed to make some kind of a statement. So I was vegetarian for a year or two in Israel, just and then now looking back, I see that's what it was. I mean, I didn't come from a house that ate meat every day, and it was meat every day in Israel. I just felt like I'd rather be on the vegetarian plan than on the meat eating plan. Then I signed up for that instead of that. So they called me a vegetarian, and then everybody was like, "Why are you a vegetarian?" And I had to make up something about it, so I did. But I gave that up when I realized I actually like meat. And I realized it was just part of an identity thing. But learning how to be part of the crowd, and just I did learn how. I mean, learning that you belong to everybody. It was a really special thing. When I finally did, fast forward, different part of the story, but when I finally did join the army, So I went to Tel Aviv. It was back in the day when Israel didn't have that many phones. So I went to Tel Aviv for the day to meet in the B'nai Akiva office to be able to join a B'nai Akiva group. So I could join the army through a B'nai Akiva group so that I would be part of a religious track in the army. But the person I needed to see wasn't there, even though I had an appointment. Because it's
Israel. Enough said.
So they weren't there. But they were going to be there the next day. And it was a rainy day. It was Hanukkah. And somebody else had waited also for hours in the office. An Israeli girl waited for hours. And we chatted for the hours while we were waiting. And then I had to go back to Jerusalem and come back the next day. And she said, well, actually, my grandmother lives in Tel Aviv. Why don't you just spend the night at my house? Okay. Like, here we are kind of related, right? We're two girls the same age that are waiting to join this B'nai Akiva thing so we can join the army in that way. And so I went to her grandmother's house. Oh, it's the next day it was raining. That day was nice. It was Hanukkah. We walked on Dizengoff. We lit candles. We spoke to her grandmother. And the next day it was a pouring rain. And I didn't have a raincoat because I went with what, right. I didn't bring anything overnight, right? Nothing. So her grandmother wouldn't let me leave the house without a raincoat. I said, but I'm not coming back. Like, you can't give this to me. Like, you can't lend this to me because I'm not coming back to Tel Aviv. She's like, no, but you have to have a raincoat. You're not going out in that with it. And like, I felt so cared for. She's like, I insist you take it. It's not an option. You don't have to return it. You must take this raincoat. And I was like, here I am. Like, I'm this girl's sister and that lady's granddaughter. She's not letting me out of the house without a raincoat. Like, I'm part of the people here. Like, it was such a special moment of like being so cared for. By who? By people I met in the office waiting for a B'nai Akiva guy.
Unbelievable.
It really was. It really was. I'll tell you another moment of like...
Was that your first sense, though, that you were like really part of this family?
Mm-mm.
You had already had that experience?
I mean, somehow I got the experience. I'll tell you something that was an amazing experience. I think it happened my first year in Israel, either first or second, but Yosef Mendelevich was a very famous refusenik in Russia, and he had been in prison for many years. And it was one of the names I knew, one of the bracelets that I didn't wear his bracelet, but one of the bracelets, everybody had names of different refuseniks that they wore on their bracelets. And to remember, like, I'm surprised that we don't have that for the hostages, actually, because it was very successful just to keep it in mind all the time, because we have dog tags now.
Yeah.
But not with the names. This had the name.
They do have some that have names.
This had the name of, So anyway, he was released. I didn't know it. I mean, Israel, like, it was a different time, you know, 1980 or 81, one of those 2 years. But all of a sudden on the streets, we heard commotion. Like, I was in the study hall in the apartment where our school was, and we heard noise in the street. We all looked out the window and we see like a bus was on the street and people were just getting on it. And a school bus arrived, a couple of school buses, and people were just pouring out of their buildings, getting on these buses. Like, why? And the word went through the streets. Yosef Mendelevich has been released and he's landing at Ben Gurion. And buses just appeared all over Yerushalayim. And people just got on them and went to the airport. And the airport was a sea of people, all into the tarmac. And when he got off the plane, he couldn't even touch the ground to kiss it. He was borne aloft by people who were dancing and singing and welcoming him. It was like so overwhelming to be part of, like, the whole Klal Yisrael came to greet him. It was such an amazing experience.
I can't even imagine what that must have been like for him.
Yeah.
It's like, look out at all of these brothers he's never even met.
Right? And everybody's so, yeah. I'll tell you probably when I first felt it, because I'm now thinking about Ben Gurion Airport, which I used to love to come to. They had a big banner back in the olden days that said V'shavu banu legvulam. And I miss it. It's not in the new airport. I miss that banner. It was so beautiful to see that. And I didn't know what that meant then. But I do remember getting off the plane, because they didn't have jet bridges then. You got off the plane, you walked down the steps. But as soon as they opened the plane doors, I got like the smell of the Jaffa oranges. It hit me. Like, because it was August. It was Elul. And it's so strong and so sweet. I knew I was home, but it actually started before on the airplane, because back in the day, they sang like Shalom Aleichem, Havinu Shalom Aleichem, before you landed, and then you land and everybody applauded, and you were like, home. But everybody engaged in this communal exercise together of like, here we are, like we're in our place. And that probably was my first time like really feeling like I'm really part of it. Although even at that time, I knew maybe I wasn't. Because before I went to Israel, my rabbi told me, not everybody in Israel accepts the kind of conversion that I gave you.
Really? That must have been a hard thing to process.
No, so I knew. But I also knew I was 16 and not everybody even thought I was going to, like, that this would stick. I knew my parents didn't think about that. They thought, oh, she's a teenager. Like, how long is this going to last? You know, she went through the other phases. This is a phase. So I knew, like, everybody thinks I'm too young and everybody thinks, like, so, and now maybe it's not. Like, I don't know. Anyway, I got to Israel knowing I had to, like, fix that. And right away when I got to Israel, people started, like, everybody asks each other, oh,
what's the story?
Not even your story. What's your name? Where are you from? Oh, Goldstein from Chicago. Do you know the Goldsteins in Detroit? My husband, everybody has a cousin. Not if you're Beach from Portland, Oregon, right? That lets the conversation stopper. Nobody's like, do you know the beaches from anywhere? And nobody's.
It's not a very fun game,
No,
Jewish geography.
Not at all. There's none. There's none that you can play. So I see that, like, I cannot play at this at all. Like, among the other things, I thought I knew so much. And among the other new things I'm experiencing is this game, which I cannot play. So, but I noticed one of the dorm counselors couldn't either. So I pulled her over privately and I asked her if she converted. She said, how did you know? I said, I see. You can't do that thing. She said, yeah, I did. I said, me too. And I told her how. And she said, oh, let's just go to the halacha rabbi and talk to him about that. So he made an appointment with the head Beit Din of Jerusalem, the head rabbinical court of Jerusalem, and he brought me there. And they asked me questions, and they decided that it was most likely fine what I had done, but just in case, I should go to the mikveh again. So they made an appointment. I didn't have to wait. I had already demonstrated my interest and commitment. I was already in a school learning, so I did not have to wait. I just had to make an appointment and go again. So I did.
Wow.
So yeah, so I was double dipped before I was before I turned 17.
Double dips.
Yeah.
Looking back at this incredible journey, so if you were talking to your 14-year-old self in that library that's like searching and not sure where you're going to land and not sure what you're looking for, what would you say?
You go, girl. We didn't have those words then, but yeah, like just go for it. Yeah, jump in for 2 feet. No question. I never, ever had a regret. I'll tell you the tiniest little thing that I had, just 2 like small sadnesses was not being able to take any of the family things I had collected around religious things. Like my mother had given us a Christmas ornament each year from birth until it was going to be till we got married so that we would have interesting ones for our tree. So we shouldn't have to just have generic ones. We had special ones and it said our name on it with the year every year. So that was left behind. And that was kind of like, not that I wanted Christmas, but I was like, oh,
right.
I had that since birth. I can't use them for sukkah decorations. Like there's like nothing that this can be repurposed for. They have to be left behind. So there's that little tiny thing, but it wasn't like I wish I was that religion, just like it was sad to leave that behind. And then when Elisheva was my first child, was 5 months old, approximately, it was December. And she's crawling, and I picked her up off the floor. And as I picked her up, I thought, I'll never put you on Santa's knee. You know, like, I missed that. That was a fun thing, like to wait in line. It was so exciting. Tell Santa what you wanted and think about it. And like, you know, like get a candy or whatever it was. Like it was we didn't have candy when growing up. There wasn't candy like today. It was very exciting to have a piece of candy. But so that was like a wistfulness. But there was never for a moment a regret, ever. Just those 2 little wistful pieces of like not being able to bring some childhood history forward.
Is there something in particular you can point to about Judaism that you can't imagine your life without?
All of it. A relationship with Hashem, knowing that Hashem believes in me as much as I believe in him more. That Hashem believes in me more than I believe in him. You know, like that he's got my back and he expects great things from me and gives me the tools to achieve those great things. Like, what would be the point of walking around trying to earn money and buy stuff without like a purpose in the world? Like a purpose. I have like an amazing purpose. I'll tell you one thing I've learned over the course of time, because as soon as I learned about this whole Jewish purpose and transforming the world and how great this is going to be, I was like, okay, let's get it done, right?
What are we waiting for?
I know. And it turns out that maybe I'm not the only one who had the attitude that we should get things done. And it is a multi-millennial process. And it took me into my 50s. So I'm 45 years Jewish almost. So it really took 40 years, I would say, to realize it's possible. It's not going to happen in my lifetime. I hope it does. I really feel like we're very close to seeing super exciting things. And I definitely am part of the whole process. And I wanted to happen right away. But I realized and that's kind of probably the annoying part of converts for people who are first generation Jews, for people who are multi-millennial Jews, let's just say, is the multi-millennial Jews are really? Because we've been
through this.
We have been through this many times, and we have been schlepping for a very long time. Don't come with your oh, it's all great thing and tell us what it is. We've been waiting a long time. You and your happy dreams. Also, I did learn, we understand that we name our children with prophecy, a level of prophecy. So I wanted to know, when a convert chooses their name, is there a level of prophecy in that choice? It turns out probably there is. My name was an easy choice because my English name is Aliza and my Hebrew name is Aliza. But Aliza means joy. And I'm very joyful. That is my baseline. It's not that I never get sad, but my base is joy. And it's a resilience joy.
Which is, it's true.
Resilient joy. Yeah.
And that's so profound. I mean, you and I both know, I don't know about our listeners, but you've gone through a lot.
Hard stuff.
More than
resilient.
Almost anyone I know. Probably more than anyone I know.
Right. And look at the resilience.
That resilience and that joy is so inspiring. And to see that
that's
prophetic ability that went into
you're
choosing that name.
Isn't that something?
It's really something else.
Yeah. So I do feel like that is my baseline. But that baseline of joy also can run up against many millennial deep Jews' pessimism. Do you know the difference between a Jewish optimist and a Jewish pessimist? So the Jewish pessimist says, things can't get worse than this. And the Jewish optimist says, yes they can. So I bring the other kind of optimism.
The real optimism.
Yeah.
Which we need. So thank you for bringing that.
Yeah.
So as the optimist that you are, where does that take you?
Well, I have thought about this a lot. And I really see that a very big difference of Jews by birth and Jews by choice is why, certainly observant ones, is why one is observant. Jews by birth, the multimillennial ones, are often very irresponsible. They've been doing this for multiple millennia, right? And it can be a long schlep that whole time. Whereas Jews by choice have not been carrying it as long, but they have a destination in mind. So they're not doing it because of responsibility. They join because of possibility. And so the possibility is what I love, right? It's really the optimism of where are we going? How can we transform ourselves and all of humanity? It's not just for the Jews, it's for all of humanity. So I feel like that's what I bring to the work that I do with Jewish educators, mostly women, although I work with men sometimes too, but Jewish educators.
Myself included.
Yeah.
I will say I was definitely the recipient of a lot
Yeah.
of your guidance throughout the years. That has been immeasurable. And you have such a unique, powerful way of doing that.
Thank you.
But I think you're right that so many of these multi-generational Jews get into this rut or this habit where we're perpetuating something just for the sake of perpetuating it.
Right.
Where you ask somebody, I get calls all the time from old Jewish grandparents who are like, my grandchild is in Denver and they're dating a non-Jew. Can you fix it?
Right.
Or something. And you ask them, first of all, you want to know too little, too late.
Right.
What have you been doing
Right.
the past 30, 40 years? But more than that, it's why is that important to you? Why is it important that they should marry a Jew? And they say, well, because my parents did and my parents did. And if they don't marry a Jew, then that'll be the end of the Jewish people. And then you say, well, so what?
Right.
If you're perpetuating something just for the sake of perpetuating it, that's not really
what's
reason.
the point of that? Exactly. So it's not to marry Jewish to have Jewish, to marry Jewish to have Jewish. That's the prerequisite. It's not the goal.
Yeah. And she recognized that
prerequisite.
What it means to be a Jew is to be part of this incredible story but more than that, that you have this responsibility to
Transform the whole
transform
world.
the world. And it's this
Right.
huge, huge responsibility that we often forget.
Right.
And
Right.
to be able to have people who remind us of that is so important.
Right. So we are the agents of change. That's our job. That's what being an Ivri is, right? That other sider is stubbornly stand against the morass of the world and say, no, I stand for something. I stand for that God runs the world. I'm thankful that he does. And I'm part of a people that's here to change the whole world. And we don't need many of us to do that. We just need a tiny little bit. And I think about like my parable for that would be either cheese or bread. Imagine we're in a cheese factory right now, and this room is a vat of milk, which there could be a vat of milk this large.
Mm-hmm.
How much rennet do you need to transform this amount of milk into cheese?
Very little.
Very little, less than what's in this cup, right? So that's the Jewish people next to all the nations of the world. Here we are the catalyzing agent to cause all the nations of the world to transform into something else. It's even nicer when you talk about yeast and dough.
I was going to say from sourdough, just to take your analogy one step further, I don't even need this cup. I don't even need the entirety of the juice.
No, you don't.
I just need a tiny bit of
Just
starter to then grow, and then it will grow, and
Right.
it will grow, and then it will be able to catalyze
Right.
the whole world.
Right.
Which
But
is why I love how you have, taken the superpower that you have and invested not just in educating Jews, but in inspiring and supporting those who are
creating the culture.
those. Yeah.
Really, sourdough is my mashal, is my parable, because sourdough, rather than yeast, which does, all you need is a couple tablespoons to make 5 pounds rise, right? A couple of million Jews to make a whole humanity rise. That's what we need. But it is the culture of the sourdough that's really the right parable, because you have to feed the culture. It has to be an active culture. It has to be alive. That's the continuity. We need continuity as a prerequisite. We must be alive as a people. And then we can spread a culture of kindness, of warmth, of education. We don't have a plan to take over the world in a terrible way. We do have a plan to actually spread a message of light and goodness, that everyone should be able to make good choices. Like, we are the Jews to spread a light unto the nations, not just a light. You just need light in the darkness. No, the light is to illuminate a pathway forward to a connection with the divine that helps elevate all individual lives and all of humanity collectively. So to have that vision, like, that's what I feel like I bring.
What a blessing, though, to have that as your mission, and you do it with such optimism.
Yes, because I know we can. When people give me doom and gloom, like, oh, the Jewish people are going to.
And you hear that a lot, especially in this world of outreach.
Right.
Every time we go to a conference or we're around other educators, unfortunately, we get into this, like it's over. Like the Jewish people is over. And
we need to second guess God. God promised we're here, we're eternal, and we will transform the world. That's almost every morning. I have it on my, where I pray in the morning. On my prayer stender, I have the verses, go to yourself. And what do you have to do in order to go to yourself? You have to leave behind your birthplace, your land, your
all the
father's
things
house.
God says to Abraham.
You leave those 3 things behind in that verse that God says to Abraham. And then the second verse is, and then I will bless you. You think you get your blessing from where you're born? No, I'll bless you, says God. You think you will become a great nation because of the nation that you were born into? No, I'll make you into a great nation. You think you get your blessing? You think you get your name from your father's house? No, I'll make your name great. Go be a blessing. So really, you could say it's go to yourself and be a blessing. But then the third verse after that is, I'll bless those who bless you. I'll curse those who curse you. And through you, all the nations of the earth will be blessed. That's a promise. The first part's conditional. If you want to be blessed, bless the Jews, you'll be blessed. If you're going to curse the Jews, you're going to get cursed. But for sure, all the nations of the earth will be blessed through you. That's not a question.
It's a promise.
It's a promise. It's a promise. So I remind myself, when I read that, go to yourself and be a blessing. Not be blessed, be a blessing. And for sure, all the nations of the earth will be blessed through us. We just have to live in a way that is a blessing. And we live in a way that brings light to the whole world. And all the nations will be blessed through us. That's a for sure. God promised.
Unbelievable. And I wonder how much of that is, contained within not just who you are as a person, but even the name that you chose for yourself, Aliza.
Right. I don't know. I mean, definitely I'm the daughter of Avraham, who went through a lot of hard things. He did. He was tested and tested and tested. That squeeze, receive process of becoming a Jew happened to Abraham in his 10 tests and receiving the Torah. And I think it happens to many of us along the way. Certainly I hope the squeezes are done. I'm just in the receive phase. But there's still the squeeze receive process of squeeze out the regularness, squeeze out what you thought, squeeze out what you expected, squeeze out what you planned, and receive a new pathway, receive new tools, receive new light, and go share that in the world. Yeah.
But is there a specific mitzvah that you find yourself most drawn to?
Well, conceptually, I would say it's Rosh Chodesh, because that's where we got our superpower. As we left Egypt and headed out into our destiny, God said, look up in the sky. See that little sliver of moon? This month shall be to you the first of all months. And now count this way, by the moon, not by the sun. The Egyptians counted by the sun. They count in years. Years means repeat. Shana is repetition. Chodesh is new. It's all freshness. So God said, not only will you count differently by a different sign in the sky, but I also invest into your superpower, the ability to make yourself new, no matter where you go. The entrepreneurial spirit, personal entrepreneurship, and national entrepreneurship. That ability to make things new all the time, to never be stuck in your past. That's part of what underlies the American dream and what makes us a Judeo-Christian country is that ability to say, I'm not stuck where I came from.
Right.
There's always something new. I could be something different than how I was born. But I love that you're not stuck ever. You always could be new. You could always have a fresh start. There's always a new horizon. There's always a new direction. There's always a new set of tools. Every morning when you wake up, a new set of tools. Like you went to sleep at night, send your soul back to heaven to get it all fixed up and patched up from whatever happened over the day, and a new toolkit invested in it, and you wake up with a new day and a new set of tools, and you get to start again. I love that.
A beautiful message and a beautiful perspective to start our new year as we're going into Rosh Hashanah.
Yeah.
And
never trapped. You get to always make
there's always the opportunity to start again.
Yeah.
To start again now.
Yeah, exactly.
And Rosh Hashanah is a great time to start again, but we don't have to wait for the new year. We can
every day.
Do it every day.
Every day, every hour. Yeah.
That's really remarkable. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
I really enjoyed the conversation. If any of you would like to get in touch with Aliza, we'll leave some ways to get in touch with you in the show notes.
Sure.
And thank you all for joining us. If you're enjoying this, don't forget to subscribe, share with a friend, leave us a review so others can find it as well. And we hope to see you back here at the end of every month as we drop new episodes. Thanks. Be well. Bye.